It's the future. It's the future. There ain't no future unless we build it now. It's the future. It's the future. It's the future. There ain't no future unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Greetings. My name is Mama D.
And I am Sister Tasha.
And welcome to Africa Must Unite podcast. We are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. And this is, I think, Tasha, our 30th podcast. That's we're proud of that, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, 30. That's a big number.
That's a real big number. So we are delighted because all this year we are focusing on revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, those at home and those in the diaspora, whose objective is a unified socialist Africa. And people say, well, why are you doing that? And we believe that our people should know about the organizations out there struggling to bring about a permanent solution to their exploitation and oppression. That's why we always quote Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who wrote in Class Struggle in Africa, quote, the total liberation and unification of Africa under an all-African socialist government must be the primary objective of all black revolutionaries throughout the world. It is an objective which, when achieved, will bring about the fulfillment of the aspirations of Africans and people of African descent everywhere. These revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations that we're talking about all year, Tasha, we talked about in our 2020 calendar, and we are highlighting them all this year. And we're doing that because all of these organizations are determined to work together in order to more effectively politically educate our people and thus to more quickly bring into existence a unified socialist Africa. And today, Tasha, we are delighted to feature the Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition. But before we do that, before we bring them on and let you hear all the positive things they're doing, we want to, as always, highlight some progressive, revolutionary, historical dates from our calendar.
All right.
Okay, we are in June, and a lot of things have been happening in June 2020. Next year, when we do our June 2021 calendar, Tasha, we got to add these other names on there, don't we? Like George Floyd and the sister. What's the sister's name? We know her. We have to add her name on, and all the others who have been, massacred by the police. We got to make sure all of that is covered in our calendar next year. And we got to remember, it's not just about George Floyd, but also about Breonna Taylor and many, many others. So, they will be added next year in this month of June. But right now, we have on June 2nd, Paul Kofi, first African to send a group of diasporans to Africa, sailed to Sierra Leone on an exploratory mission in 1811. On the 3rd of June, Poor People's March on Washington in 1968 in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. On this same date, on the 3rd of June, Dr. Charles Drew developed blood plasma. He was born on this date in 1904. On the 4th of June, Modibo Keita, progressive first president of Mali, born in 1915. On this same date, it was the acquittal of Angela Davis on charges of murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy in 1972. On the 10th of June, Marcus Garvey, Pan-African organizer of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, died in England in 1940. And we celebrate the UNIA, don't we, Tasha? Every year with our Garvey Fest in August. So that's coming up. On the 12th of June, the Convention People's Party, CPP, led by Kwame Nkrumah, was founded in 1949. And on this same date, the 12th of June, Medgar Evers, African civil rights activist, was assassinated in 1963. We have a long history of police brutality and brutality against African people. We could do a whole calendar just on that.
That's what I was just thinking, Mama dear. She was reading. I was like, yes, it looks like that's been going on for a long time.
Oh,
and our
man.
calendar definitely proves that.
It's true, Tasha. And the other thing, on the 13th of June, Walter Rodney, Pan-African scholar and revolutionary activist, was murdered by neo-colonialist running dogs. On the 16th of June, Jacques Dessalines declared Emperor of Haiti in 1804. On this same date, the 16th, African student uprisings began in Soweto and spread through South Africa in 1976. On the 17th, Lamine Janghai, young pioneer and member of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, died in 2018. On the 18th of June, Ahmed Fletcher Mbalia, African revolutionary and member of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, was born on this day in 1941. Now, we all know about June 19th, Juneteenth Day. African slaves in Texas first hear that slavery is abolished in 1865, and this is June 19th. That's so sad. over 2 years, and they're just hearing about that. And I'm sure a brother from C.P.A.C will talk more about this because he did a wonderful program on celebrating Juneteenth. On this same day, the 19 vigilant militants in Revolutionary Grenada exposed and foiled CIA intrigue attempt in 1980. On the 22nd of June, South African workers strike against European capitalists in solidarity with the students following the Soweto uprising in 1976. On the 23rd, the Black Star Line, the shipping company, was organized by the Universal Negro Improvement Association under the leadership of Amy Ashwood and Marcus Garvey in 1919. On this same date, the 23rd, the 6th Pan-African Congress was held in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania in 1974. On the 24th of June, 6 young African women arrested and beaten by police, and this is not even in the U.S., this is in Halsden, London in 1976. 6 young African women. On the 25th of June, Front for the Liberation of Mozambique, FRELIMO, was founded in 1962. On this same date, Mozambique wrestled political independence from the brutal Portuguese colonialism in 1975. And on the 26th of June, South African Freedom Day declared in 1955, a memorial to the determination of the South African people to carry on the struggle against racism, exploitation, and oppression. On the 29th, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, born in Trinidad in 1941. And on the 30th, besides being your birthday, Tasha, Congo Independence Day declared in 1960. So those are some of the very, very important dates There are many, many more in the month of June, and even if we on our calendar there's a blank spot, we know that the people struggle each and every day, and our people make history. So it could be blank all it wants, but we know about the people's struggle, don't we, Tasha?
Yeah, and you know what, Mama D, I noticed that although you talked about this police brutality that was happening a long time ago, I also noticed that equally you saw like student uprisings, you saw groups and organizations like the South African workers striking. You saw people were working together, organizing, and fighting back.
And
so
and that's the important thing.
Yes. So I thought that was extremely important, noticing that on the calendar as well. So we have another Mama D organization that does something very similar to that. And the same group is also working hard to make sure that they're spreading this word of Pan-Africanism. You know who that group is, Mama D?
I think you were talking about Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition.
Yes, that is exactly who that is. So, just a little background information about the Cincinnati African Coalition. They're called the C.P.A.C. So they were started when two African organizations in Cincinnati, Ohio, began working together on activities to inform and organize the African community on the importance of identity, unity, and independence. It was two organizations that came together: the Academy for African Community Transformation, or they're called the AACP. It was a rites of passage organization teaching African youth ages 12 through 17 the coming of responsibilities of adulthood. And then there was another group, which was the Conscious Mind Study Group, and they were studying all forms of information to acquire clarity on identity, African culture, and history, and their people's struggle for justice. So in August of 2011, they were planning a Marcus Garvey celebration, similar to how we always plan our Marcus Garvey celebration in August. So they decided to merge those two groups to form a coalition. So I'm loving this organization. So on August 26, 2011, the Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition was born. So between those two groups, there were former members of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and the Republic of New Africa, and they made Pan-Africanism, as described and fought for by our Honorable Kwame Nkrumah, they made that their primary objective.
That's beautiful.
So many of the members in both organizations, they decided to be supporters, but not everybody was active participants. So their efforts were mainly on trying to bring other like-minded organizations into the coalition. Sounds similar to our organization, doesn't it, Mama D? Yes. But their biggest drawback in this effort has been the ignorance of half knowledge of socialism and dialectical materialism. So to help overcome that, they started implementing a community gathering series. So they started to educate people.
Oh, yeah.
So they held on 2 Saturdays each month, and they used these sessions to clarify Pan-Africanism and inclusionism, as well as socialism and dialectical materialism. So I love also the way this organization made sure that they touched base with Africa. So one of their workers actually went to Tanzania 4 years ago to teach English at a school there. And that person lived there ever since and has a wife and a child of their own. The organization actually supported the water purification project that he started in an attempt to get books written by authors in various languages translated into Swahili. So I love the fact that they're making sure they're educating others.
That's right.
And then they had 2 other members, which was the husband and wife team, recently returned from Ghana, and they went to establish working relations with those who could assist them in their organizational work when they returned. So they're making small steps, but with those small ranks, they got even smaller, but they still continue to work on conducting activities to inform our people and to increase their membership.
Mm.
Yeah, struggle doesn't stop.
No.
Yeah, and so for the 7th consecutive year, the C.P.A.C. that's sponsoring the African Liberation Day celebration right there in Cincinnati in May. And then in August, they continue to support and sponsor the Marcus Garvey African Family Day celebration. They also sponsor an all-day Kwanzaa celebration on the Saturday during the Kwanzaa season, and they teach in schools, churches, and recreation centers throughout African History Month. They also regularly invite speakers, and they are invited to speak at events sponsored by other groups. And then they also are always eager to take on responsibilities and those opportunities that they get to go spread the word of Pan-Africanism to their people.
Man, they are busy. They are doing so much work.
Yes, yes. So we would like to say, as we are getting ready to introduce this particular party, that we salute them as well for having that same party line, fighting for our people, still struggling. And sometimes organization can be hard, and we know that with our organization, but you just keep on. You just keep on.
That's right. And you know, I love that they say, because we're reading their submission to our calendar 2020, and it's so filled with all the work they're doing, you know, locally, nationally, and in terms of Africa at home. And, you know, they say that not only does what they do let everyone know that the struggle for Pan-Africanism is alive and well, it also gives Pan-Africanists some comrades they can call on when they are in or close to places where we are working. They were paying a tribute to the calendar and the whole idea of highlighting the many revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, because that's what it will do. It's going to let people know, it's letting people know Pan-Africanism is alive and well, and know that we're not alone in our struggles, even though we are dispersed, you know, throughout the world. So, you know, the Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition has it going on, don't they, Tasha?
Yeah, they do.
They do. So,
I love the fact that you just said too, Mama D, about if you are in a different place or you're working somewhere, if you always, so for example, if our organization went to Cincinnati, we have family. So I just love that.
I really love it. I mean, because we can call on them, you know, and they're here, they can call on us, or we go to Ghana or Nigeria, some of these organizations that contributed to the calendar, Zimbabwe, the Congo, and other places. We can call on them, you know, and they can call on us when they're in the United States. So, you know, that's a real beautiful thing. And without further ado, we're going to bring this powerful organization, C.P.A.C, Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition, on to share with you some of the amazing things that they are doing. Okay, we have Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition in the house, and we want to say revolutionary greetings. Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, and also thanks for agreeing to take time away from organizing our people in order to share your knowledge with us, Babatunde. Welcome.
Yeah,
greetings to you, sister. Thank you for having me.
Tasha, you want to, maybe we should, Oh, okay.
Okay, so I will introduce myself. Thank you for joining us. I am Sister Tasha with the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, and we have a group under the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party called Land Army.
Okay. And Babatunde, introduce yourself.
Yes, I am Babatunde Akinwole, and I am the co-founder and the co-chair of the Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition.
And that's go right ahead.
I was just going to say that I've been with C.P.A.C for a number of years, but I've also been with a few other Pan-African organizations, and that kind of gave me the mindset that Pan-Africanism was the way, and I certainly understand that now. and I'm going to be there until we accomplish Pan-Africanism. And so it's really a part of my life, my everyday life.
I hear what you're saying, because once you know something of your history, and you study and you belong to an organization, like you said, Babatunde, we both belong to several Pan-African organizations. It helps us to understand, that you're not here to do for yourself and live like a slug, to eat and just be in existence for yourself, but you're here to help your people, like the many, many heroes and heroines that we celebrate. So each day, is an opportunity to do some little something for our people.
That's right. And every day that we do something, at the end of the day, I just sit down and kind of look over what I did, kind of critique what I did, and get myself ready to make another contribution the following day.
Wow. And Tasha, that's what we talk about. We talk about so much the importance of criticism and self-criticism, don't we?
Oh yeah. Always looking to give a critique of myself. Self-criticism is very important, but always open and welcome for criticism from others, because that's the way we grow. Until we understand that we're doing things correctly or doing things incorrectly, when we see that pushes forward our development and makes the activities that we engage in a whole lot more geared towards success. The more you understand about what you're doing, the more you understand about how people, especially our people, look at what it is you're doing, the better you are in terms of being a servant to the needs and interests of our people.
And that's such an important point, Babatunde, because when you just criticize yourself, you're looking at yourself from only this one perspective. You don't even see all around, everything that you've done. It may not even register. So this is why we say it's important. Study is good, but the most important study that educates us is study within a political organization, because that way you're getting help in terms of your development as a person, as a people, and everything.
That's right.
I also think it keeps us grounded as well. When you think about that identity piece of who we are and what we're here for and our purpose, I think that is also a part of when you do that self-criticism and you reflect so that you can become better.
That's so true. Very true. And
it's a science. So we have to make sure that people understand that when you criticize, you don't attack. When you receive criticism, you don't get defensive. You just look at it as a mechanism for moving forward.
It is. We always say in revolutionary organization that it's to help somebody grow. It's not to tear somebody down. That ain't gonna service our people at all. Criticism and self-criticism is a growing mechanism, a tool to help us to improve ourselves so that we can become more committed to our people, so that we can become more humanist, collectivist, and egalitarian as an individual. All of that's important, right, Babatunde?
Oh, yes, very important. We are not actually practicing revolutionary principles if we don't live that way.
Mm-hmm. That's an important point. And I think now, we're down to looking at or asking you to talk to us about some of the current reality that's going on in Cincinnati. And you may want to also talk about the whole United States, because, your organization is one of the few who have the direct experience of living in Babylon. So, for people who might be in Zimbabwe, who listen to this podcast, or might be in the Congo and all, they probably need your perspective in terms of what is the current reality of African people in Cincinnati and throughout the U.S.
Well, in terms of trying to organize in Cincinnati, revolutionary organizing in Cincinnati is difficult, and I'm sure it's difficult everywhere we exist as a people because of the conditions there. People are so much ingrained in trying to just kind of keep a roof over their heads, put a plate of grits on the table, that to look at the kinds of things that are really causing the problems that they're having becomes secondary. They're just saying, this is what I got to do to make sure that my children are eating tomorrow, and they move to do that. But the contradictions that they see every day are the kinds of things that are causing you to look at the situation a lot closer. And I remember a brother in Cincinnati, he wrote a poem. He's actually a poet, and one of the poems that he wrote was called "Capitalist Society."
Wow.
And I remember the poem very well. He said, I took a look around to see. Well, first he said, I've been down so many times, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. That's when I couldn't get a job, I couldn't pay my bills, I couldn't get my hands on no money. That's when I took a look around to see if anybody else was catching this kind of hell. And it became clear to see so many people were suffering, I knew I couldn't blame myself. The problem was capitalist society. And the more we look at capitalism, the more we look at how we're living and the causes of the kinds of problems that we're having in our community, the more we'll start saying, wait a minute, I have to start moving to turn this whole thing around and not just try to determine how am I going to eat tomorrow, but what do we as a people need to do to improve our lifestyle or improve the way we're living. And so we, inside of Cincinnati, what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that we feed that. We keep information out there among people so that as they are suffering, they're understanding the cause of the suffering.
That's right.
Because and once they see that, then it becomes a lot better for them to say, wait a minute, here's what I need to be doing. So organizing in Cincinnati is difficult, and we still are a small organization. Our organization, Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition, is actually a coalition. And we invite organizations to come into C.P.A.C. We call it C.P.A.C. Come into C.P.A.C. and they can bring whatever focus they have before they come into C.P.A.C. They bring that with them, and they maintain their autonomy, whether they are a youth organization or a financial organization, agriculture, militia, whatever they do. They maintain their autonomy, but they begin to look at, especially inside of our study circles, they begin to look at how do they bring their resources, their skills, and their people power to move to help achieve Pan-Africanism. And so in moving to bring organizations inside of the coalition, we began to just put together programs around organizations, attend organizational programs that other people would have, and try to get them to understand that, listen, a lot of us are struggling just to reform this society, and we got to understand that it's not working, and that we have to move to revolution. We've got to move to make sure that we completely change this thing. And the more people who are thinking that we can just stop the police from brutalizing our people, or we can make sure that the society makes sure that we have decent housing, the bottom line is that if we struggle against that which the major weapon of white supremacy, that being capitalism, if we can make sure that we struggle against that, then all of those issues that we are confronted with, we can eliminate. So we're trying to get people to see that in Cincinnati, and it's been difficult, but we have more and more people saying, I see it now, and I can never go back.
And you make such a eloquent and informative presentation, because yes, our people are so downtrodden, so exploited and oppressed, and the only way we can raise up is through political education. That's our historic role right now. And as you said, and in these recent times, you have a problem of not only coronavirus, which is killing us at an extensive rate, as African people with pre-existing conditions and all kinds of things, but this police brutality and loss of jobs. What do we say, Babatunde? First fired, last hired, first fired.
That's right.
And they said, just in 1 in 5 U.S. citizens employed in February were laid off in March. Can you believe it? 1 in 5, and the majority of those are us. And you talk about capitalism. At the same time, we were being fired and losing our jobs. The Guardian says that 26 million U.S. citizens lost their jobs in April, and the billionaire class added $308 billion to its wealth in 4 weeks.
Wow.
That's why the rich get richer. So capitalism has to go. It's just a system for a 1% of the population who enrich themselves at the expense of exploiting and oppressing us, and especially African people, because racism is ingrained in the capitalist system.
Oh yeah. And we see in segments of our community, especially when you look at the youth, they really are beginning to see this. They're saying, man, we can't get any jobs that we can use to help our families have a better standard of life. We can't get decent education in this educational system. They're saying that the police are attacking them, brutalizing them, killing them more and more each day. And so they really are to the point where they're saying, what can we do? Now they're starting to see that before they thought that being a criminal, or what's called criminal activity, criminality was the only way they could make an income in this society. But then they're starting to say, man, but if I catch that case and go to penitentiary, what happens to my family then? So they're starting to look for alternatives, and we need to be right there making sure that they understand, hey, this is the way you go. So in Cincinnati, we wanted to really kick it off this summer, and of course the virus kind of held us back a little bit from bringing people together. But we want to have a strong chapter of the Young Pioneers here, because there are a number. I've been working with rites of passage for a number of years, so I know a number of youth, and I was also a little league football and baseball coach, so I know a number of coaches. And we've decided that it's time for us to organize these youth and bring them together and move them to the point where they can organize their peers in the schools and their recreation centers in the streets, and that we can begin to put together youth who stand strong for Pan-Africanism. So that's the move that we intend to make here. And at the same time, we see our women, and don't get me wrong, in Cincinnati, we got strong, brilliant women here. But what I think what's needed is a revolutionary organization for them to organize themselves as women, as revolutionary women, in organizations that is built by them, for them, and led by them. Because many times you see women doing a lot of the work and men being in the forefront of the organization. But we need to make sure that our women are the ones who step forward, because they have so much to offer. And many times people look at them as being, background kinds of folks, and they are always on the front line of our struggles. And so we really want to look at putting together an organization, a revolutionary organization, where African women can come together as well.
And that's such an important point, to deal with sisters. And on one of our leaflets that we put out, a brother said, let it not be lost on you that the African woman is the most oppressed person on the face of the earth. To put this reality into context, using the popular maxim, when white America catches a cold, black folks get pneumonia, we maintain for the African woman, she is under intensive care with full respiratory failure, and witnessed the brutal assassination of Breonna Taylor at the hands of the police. Sisters had to organize to a thing called Say Her Name, because it's not to take away from the brutality that's being instigated by police against African males. It's just to say we are all getting hit hard, and sisters' names need to be out there too, So I appreciate what you said about the struggle to get revolutionary organization for sisters out there.
two things that, there were two things that Baba Tunde just said too that made me think of what our organization always says. And one of them was, when sleeping women awake, they can move mountains.
That's right.
And so I thought that was really interesting. And then he also talked about how important it was for them to organize the youth, and that's what they're doing. And we always talk about the youth being the spark of the revolution. And so you guys are starting in a really good place.
And
that
is
well, at some point, we really are looking forward to having strong proportions of the youth inside of Cincinnati moving that way. And once the youth start moving, other youth get gravitated toward them. Same way with the organization of sisters. And we all know that when sisters are on the move, brothers have to move as well. So we really are looking forward to making sure that those kinds of things happen here.
That is beautiful, and I don't know if you find it so, Baba Tunde. I know, Tasha, we talk about it in the organization, and more you see people saying something about capitalism. It was this one sister who was in Europe who was protesting George Floyd, and her sign said capitalism is the virus. So, you're getting more people understanding the nature of capitalism. And I think what we have to do, Baba Tunde, we talk about this a lot, is to help our people to understand, well, what is the solution, and more discussion about why a unified socialist Africa is important, why socialism doesn't mean these backwards things that you've heard, but using your wealth for your people and not to profit 1% of the population. And if you talk about unified Africa, even though it's been exploited so, it still is the wealthiest continent on the face of the earth. So you talking about using that wealth for people of African descent, whether they live in Africa or abroad like we do, that's going to raise us up as a people and get and have the kind of power and respect. We talk about that a lot, Baba Tunde, in Pan-African organizations, don't we?
Yeah, I think the whole understanding of socialism and the benefits of socialism is really going to be important to our organization, bringing people into revolutionary organizations, because I'm seeing that a lot of people can really understand and embrace the fact that we are African people. Okay, I'll take that. Africa is our home. Okay, that's where we came from. But the whole thing around socialism, because it's been so taboo in America, our people tend to look at it like, no, I don't know if I can accept that, And I have to really break it down. When I first understood what capitalism was, I immediately became an anti-capitalist, but I didn't know what else you'd do.
Right.
And I was reading about socialism, but I was reading Karl Marx and Lenin and Engels and those folks, and I was saying, this is based on some European kind of stuff. And then when I started reading people like Nkrumah and Nyeri, Azikwe, I was saying, okay, now I see it. They're taking the tenets, the principles of socialism, and applying it to concrete material conditions in African societies. And then it started to make sense to me. So once we get people to understand that it's not just some European kind of a thing, because first thing I tell them, I say, if you think that socialism is just a European kind of a system that only Europeans can benefit from, what do you say about capitalism? It's the same kind of thing. But once we understand what socialism is all about, and that it is a reflection of what we always refer to as communalism, which African people actually came up with in terms of their economic systems, once we understand that, it becomes a whole lot easier to look closely at it. And people constantly say, well, how do I get paid? How much do I get paid? Can I have a business? All of those questions, I'm saying that is the reason we look at socialism as being that transitional stage between capitalism and communism.
That's
because
right.
We got to get rid of that capitalist mindset before communism can actually happen. So all of those things about, how much can I make? Can I stop? You got to get rid of that taste for having the biggest, finest car and the biggest house and all of the clothes and stuff. You got to get over that and try to make sure that everybody in the society has everything that they need to continue to exist and to move forward.
That's so beautifully put. You know, that is exactly what we be teaching and talking about. And it doesn't matter if someone invented the hammer, or someone invented a computer, or someone said something about something. You know, these are neutral things. And socialism is an economic plan. The point is not who said something about it in 1800, but does it work for your people? Is it an economic system that uses the wealth to help all the people? That's what matters,
right.
Not just 1% of the people. You may want to call it boogaloo. I don't care. As long as it's an economic system that works for all of the people and not enrich just the ruling class.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the teaching of Pan-Africanism and the acceptance of Pan-Africanism, actually the internalization of it by our people is what we're looking at, because after 5 or 6 centuries of capitalism, seeing the destruction that is brought to the African nation, you know, we have to make sure that our people say, listen, what we're looking for is not a Band-Aid. We're looking for the complete change and something that is not going to be a day-to-day kind of a thing, but a permanent solution.
That's right.
And when we start looking at Pan-Africanism that way, then it becomes kind of a calling card for everybody. We must bring about Pan-Africanism. We have to bring about Pan-Africanism. And so one of the things we try to do here in Cincinnati is to get everybody to talk about Pan-Africanism and every day, just push Pan-Africanism out there. You know, and sometimes we get backlash from people, mostly Europeans, but sometimes from Africans as well. And you just have to kind of keep pushing it, and pretty soon people will come around. Because I know people used to tell me all the time, man, you come around with that socialist stuff. I don't really want to hear that stuff, man. We can't make that thing work. And now I'm starting to hear those same people say, hey, brother, tell me about that socialism stuff. You know, so it's coming, you know. And you just have to stay steady and constant with it. And at some point, our people will get it. Because we're too intelligent not to get it.
You're so right, you know, because when we first moved here in 1987, we were talking about capitalism, and people had some people had the same response. Why do you keep talking about that capitalism stuff? But you see the repetition of it, plus their own personal experience of it, you know, will help them to see clearly capitalism has to go. It has to be destroyed. It has to be eradicated off the face of the earth. And whatever you want to call it, a more humanist, collectivist, egalitarian economic system for all the people got to be instituted.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we got it. Like you said, keep saying it over and over and over.
Right. And we also see it as being, I know, and I can't remember the exact quote, but once Nkrumah said that Pan-Africanism will be one of the major tools or weapons in the struggle for world liberation.
Oh yeah.
When we put together the United Socialist Africa, then we can begin not only to make sure that every African is taken care of in terms of being provided for, protected, spoken for, and have the pride and dignity of being one nation, but at the same time, with all of the resources we have from our homeland, we can support other justice-loving peoples and potentially justice-loving peoples. And the more justice-loving peoples that exist in the world, the closer we become to getting rid of those who want to do dirt in the world, the greedy capitalists. Mm-hmm. And so Pan-Africanism becomes that tool, that weapon to actually help in the whole development of world liberation.
That's a beautiful, beautiful statement. He did say, contribute to worldwide socialism leading to worldwide communism. And you said it right. Look at the wealth. And you see what Cuba does with its small little island and how much it helps people. Just think about, like you said, a United Socialist Africa, this huge continent, and what it can do and supply for those who are struggling throughout the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Cuba is really setting an example of what can be done, and they're just such a small uh, group of people right there, right in the face of capitalism, and they're saying, "Look, this is what we can do, and not only what we can do, but what we will do." And when we start looking at examples like that, there's nothing else we can do but move forward. Because, like you said, Africa is such a gigantic continent and has so many resources. If Cuba had anything like what Africa has, oh man, we would blow this capitalist thing right off the face of the earth.
I know.
So I'm looking forward to that day.
Oh, wow. Tasha, this has been a beautiful discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
I certainly have enjoyed myself.
Oh, man, we could go on and on. We so much enjoyed you, Babatunde. We got to have you back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All you got to do is let me know.
Oh, wow. You sure taught us something today. Thank you so very much, and take good care of yourself. Any way we can support you at Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, can support Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition, please let us know.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank both of you sisters and your organization for putting this whole thing together. And I love being a part of this whole thing. And whatever we can do in aid or to just join in the struggles that you're waging, please let us know. We stand ready.
Thank you so much.
Take
good care. I'm sorry, Tasha.
For your,
You go ahead, Tasha.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to say I enjoyed your Juneteenth celebration as well yesterday, too.
Oh, you saw it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I saw some of it.
Oh, yeah. Good. We had a good time actually putting it together.
A wonderful contribution. Keep up that good work, Babatunde. We love it. Thank you so much for working on behalf of your people.
All right, forward ever, backward never.
Backward never.
All right, forward.
Okay.
Oh, that was beautiful, wasn't it, Tasha? I'm telling you, we could have just talked all day long. Thank you. No, that is true. They're doing so much. Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition, we are so thankful for their being here. Now, in subsequent months, at times with the help of invited revolutionary guests, we will discuss various revolutionary Pan-African organizations that are struggling throughout the world, just like C.P.A.C, to bring about Pan-Africanism, a unified socialist Africa.
Also join us next month while we highlight another amazing Pan-African group, which is Friends of the Congo.
Meanwhile, leave comments on our website, prsponline.org. Email us at panafricanrsp@gmail.com. Like us on SoundCloud. Visit us on YouTube.
Now remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African Socialist organization. Remember, a union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Can't you see the snow? I see them marching. Can't you see the snow? I see them marching. I see 10 soldiers, I hear them coming. We're finally on out. This summer I hear the drumming. We're dead in Ohio. We're marching in Compton. We're marching in Oakland. We're marching in Ferguson. We're marching in Flint.
I stay training, never know when the drama coming. Like a soldier up early in the morning running. PT, stay sharp on my calisthenics. No weed smoke, clean mind and a clear spirit. All for peace, but I keep a peace close near me. It's real life, homie, not a conspiracy theory. Shots fired, police getting away with it. Even when the camera dead on, so you know they did it. It's not war till we fight back, it's just slaughter. Time to lace up the boots and walk like warriors. In our homes, in our streets, in our neighborhoods. Can't wait till Marines in your neighborhood. We need a people army on deck across cultures. Guerrilla soldiers calling all levels, all focus. Pick your target in your battles, we don't need martyrs. We need a squad of the bravest and smartest and hardest.
Soldiers are here, them coming. We're finally on our own. This summer I hear the drumming. War dead in Ohio.
We march in Memphis. We march in Selma. We march in Chicago. We march. Watch.
Born with a battle cry. Peace of mind been demolished since I emerged bloody from out of the amniotic violence. I got my environment and I'm the product. Got the blood of freedom fighters flowing deep in my carotid. I'm deep for my media feed. RIPs on IG, so I'm camouflaging how I grieve. My heart beating, I'm on a minute on my sleeve. I'm trapped between anguish and anger like wild creatures. Daddy told me either you fight or you die speechless. So I bring the spirit of Ali through my speakers. Power versus the people like trees and small cleavers. So we ball a fist and keep chopping till we see justice. They try to silence the movement before it started, but it's a million voices screaming through an epiglottis. From the students of Soweto to the ghettos and the projects, we gon' keep pushing the needle till we progress. Witness these soldiers.
We're finally on our own. This summer I hear the drumming. War dead in Ohio.
We march New Orleans. We march DC. We march Charlottesville. We march in New York City. We marching. We marching in Watts. We marching Compton, DC, Oakland, ATL. I see you. We marching in Milwaukee, Ferguson, Flint, New Orleans, Grand Rapids, New York City, Selma. Can't forget Tuskegee, Charlottesville.
Can't stay late 60s, fueled by hate. This ain't no Malcolm versus Martin debate. Who can relate when the brothers get lynched and the blacks shoot back and the crackers burn crosses? Pigs got they back.